Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you would mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted. I also love it when you leave comments, so let me know what you think. Let me know constructive criticism, ideas for videos, how you do things. I always like to hear those kinds of things. So today's video I don't think is going to be too terribly long, but we'll see. I've always wanted to do a puzzle ring, and I've never done one before, so I did a couple of prototypes today, and I was going to show you how I did that. And it's not terribly hard, although it's hard to get it consistent in your bends and everything. So we'll see how this one comes out. This will be my third try, and the first one was pretty rough. The second one was okay, and the third one we'll see. I gradually increased the size of the wire. The first one I did was 18 gauge, the second was 16 gauge, this third one's going to be 14, so we'll see how it works out. Before we get started though, I would like to thank some people, my patrons over on Patreon. I have some new ones, Kurt and Claire K and Heather Nunya Business, which is a great name for signing up for things. So thanks to all of you for signing up. I appreciate your contribution. And I wanted to thank all of my patrons over there. They've created this marvelous group that shares ideas and shows each other what they're making, and it's just a really nice place. I think that you new patrons will find that it's a really nice group of people who's full of all sorts of knowledge and willing to share it. So thank you all for that. My other group is my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 13,900 people, and that's awesome. I never thought I'd get to that stage. I'm amazed by your support. Sometimes you leave some really nice comments, and that keeps me going when I'm tired. So I really appreciate that. It's nice to know that people are getting something out of this. I also appreciate the super thanks and the buy me a coffees, which are really helpful with the rising cost of materials. So thank you for that. Let's get started on this puzzle ring. This is one of my design idea books. I have these available on my merch store, and recently on the backs I've started putting some conversion tables. This one has fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeters, which I find useful. I've been trying to do things in millimeters more. It makes more sense with jewelry for sure. There's also one on the store that has American wire gauge to millimeters too, which I think people overseas might find useful. I generally draw up my designs before I start, and it's especially important when I'm doing something new like a puzzle ring, which I've never really done. So I watched several videos online and tried this a few times, and I think I've got the hang of it, sort of. So we'll give it a shot and see how it comes out. So it's going to be a 4-band one. Like I said in the intro, I did the first one I tried with 18 gauge wire because it's easy to bend, and I just wanted to not use up a lot of materials, so I did that. And it came out to look like this. So it's the basic idea, but I didn't do it very cleanly or very nicely. It needs some work. But the second one I did 16 gauge. Again, these aren't polished or anything, but 16 gauge was a little tighter looking, I think. So we'll try and do 14 and see which one comes out best. 14 is going to be a little harder to bend. You'll need some kind of a clamp and a flat surface to do this on. I'm using a little piece of oak and just my workbench here, and then I have this woodworking clamp that I use for some woodworking stuff, and I'll use this to kind of clamp the wire right down to the table underneath this board so it can't move too much. And if you're not a gauge user, if you use millimeters, 14 gauge is 1.6 millimeters roughly, and 16 gauge is 1.3. I think the 16 gauge one came out fine. The 18 gauge is a little flimsy and thin, so I probably wouldn't do one like that again. But so first off, I cut myself some about 80 millimeters long, which is plenty long to make just about whatever size ring I want, unless I wanted a huge one. And I think I'm going to tape the ends together first to kind of keep them all lined up. And so let's do that. I usually use masking tape for that. This is a little reminiscent of weaving. And I do this kind of thing when I'm doing weaving. It's getting them to kind of all be in the same place, basically. clamp this onto the table here. Should be tight enough, hopefully. Okay, and we'll kind of use this as a guide here. So I think we should bend up the top outer ones like this a little bit so they're out of the way, because these inner two need to go outwards first. So let's take those and we'll bend those outwards. I'm going to pull them up just a little bit so I can get my pliers on them, not ding them up too badly. Maybe. Just kind of bend them outwards a little bit. Okay. So the top one here on the outside now needs to go right here, needs to go over this way, this one needs to go over this one. So I think let's do the top one first here. And we're going to bend it pretty close to where the other one bent. And I'm just going to make it parallel to this other one like that. Push that down as much as I can. We'll do the same thing here on this side. Push that down like that. Pretty tight. Alright. So the next step then is going to be, so these outer ones are going to become the main point of the central part of the puzzle part of the ring. And so we need to decide how far up to do those. I kind of like to do it about the same length so they are symmetrical. We'll find a marker. See if we can be a little more consistent on this one than we were on the last one. Let's go about about 12 or 13 from where they cross. Maybe about there too. So the top one's going to be, the one that started on the top is going to be underneath the other one. So let's bend that one first. Do this one over the top of that one. Probably shouldn't mess with it when I have it pretty good. That's when I usually get in trouble. Okay, so we got those. Next step, we have to bend these about midway up this angle here, right? And so this one's going to go over both this one and this one. And I want it to, it needs to be about right central point right there. And then this one's going to go across both of those ones here. So lift that up a little so I can get a grip on it. So far, so good. Last step here, before we shape it on the mandrel. These two to kind of meet together. Okay, so now these outer ones, this top one here, it actually needs to go kind of under right about here. So it needs to go under this one here, but over the top of this one. Here, this is going to go that way. Now this one needs to go underneath both of those. Oops. So that's pretty good. I think to get really good at this, I probably have to make 4 or 5 more of them. I see what I did wrong. This one that I had going to the middle is supposed to go to just the outside. Just like that. There we go. Initially I'd put this one underneath there, because my head gets a little confused when I'm crossing things over each other, but I think that's about right. So let's untype it. And we'll do some final shaping on the mandrel, but it's up near the top here. Let's kind of start coming around like this. You want to make sure you don't let them come apart at this stage, I think. Try and kind of get this roughly at the size I want, which may be a 7.5 or an 8, somewhere in there. Let's So now I'm going to file those ends and then solder them together, each of the rings. So to make sure they don't come apart. So I'm going to lay this out so that I can easily pick solder each of these pieces. Should be able to kind of lay them out like this. So we got a solder joint right here, right here, right here, and right here. And I have a bunch of little pieces of solder here, so I'm just going to pick solder these. I use hard silver sheet solder for the most part, and I use a liquid flux that I dribble on. And if you've never seen pick soldering, there's a good video about it up here. It's a useful skill. It allows you to place a little bit of solder pretty precisely. Which is oftentimes very useful. Now to see if we can put it back together. Need to find two opposite of each other that with the 2 points that you made towards each other, and the other one's on top. You're going to bend it like that. You have to get these guys to configure so that they lay next to each other with an X, kind of like that. And then we'll pull these down like this. And that's how it's going to go. And then, like I said, once it's on the mandrel, after it's pickled and everything, and after I do some initial cleanup with the Dremel with an abrasive white wheel to get rid of any tool marks that I made, we'll put it on the mandrel, and when we get it in our shape that we like, I'm going to take my chasing hammer and tap it just slightly to get it to kind of nestle down together nicely, and we'll try and get these ends to look a little bit neater. But I'm going to let it pickle for a while, and then we'll finish it up. So I'll be back in a few. So I got it polished up a little bit. I think I did okay for my third try, and I still didn't get the proportions perfect, I don't think, but it's getting better each time that I do it. So I've got it kind of strapped together so I don't have to figure out how to put it back together again, because it's actually surprisingly hard to do until you figure out the first, the two outer ones, because they all look very similar. So so I'm not going to take it apart right now, but I need to take some pictures of both together like this for the thumbnail and for some pictures at the end, as well as some disassembled. So after I get some good pictures where it's assembled, I'll disassemble it and take a few pictures. But overall, I would rate this as a sort of an intermediate-ish project, I think. Not technically hard, but a little confusing when you're crossing all these little wires, and then there's a reason it's called a puzzle ring. It's kind of challenging to put back together. So hopefully, if you need a screenshot of that, that's kind of a guide to how to do it. But I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end. Okay, well that was the 4-band puzzle ring. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. I'd also love it if you take a moment and look at some of my other content. I try and make content for all different skill levels, and I think if you enjoyed this one, you're almost certain to find something else you'll enjoy. So take a few moments. There's over 360 videos to peruse. Watch a few, come back, subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. So the other thing is, check the video description down below for relevant links. There's a link to my ebook, which is a guide to my 2023 videos. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea books I showed you. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that, and several other very important links. So check those out. Come back and visit again. I'd love to see you again. So take care. Happy silversmithing.